Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for April 15th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and just doing it by myself today. I thought we were going to have a slow day. Jon couldn't make it for the Sunday, and so I was like, yeah, just do it by myself. And then, what do you know? Johnny makes it an interesting day after all. So here we are. Here we are here to talk about the Big Brother Canada 6 live feeds and everything that happened on them yesterday. And it like I said, got a little interesting. So this could be fun. Make sure you come and join us in the chat room on robhasawebsite.com if you would like to chat with me, be my co-host for the morning, and ask some questions. You can also send them in to me on Twitter at ArmstrongTaran if you want. But join us in the chat. It's a fun time. All right, let's get started. Let's talk about the day. To start the day, Johnny and Ryan are nominated. They are put on the block by Derek, and so they will be the people who people will be voting for at the end of the week, or at least theoretically. Johnny has a conversation with Will where Johnny's basically going to do some work today on these two pairs, Will and Paris, and then Ali and Liv, because he recognizes that he needs their votes, right? Johnny needs 4 votes if he wants to stay in this house. So he needs to find out, he needed to figure out where those 4 votes going to come from, because he could theoretically get Ali and Liv, but just on their own, that's not enough. That's only 2 votes. If you got Ali, Liv, and Will, or Ali, Liv, and somebody else, it's still not enough. That's only 3. Derek breaks the tie. So he could theoretically get Maddie, Paris, and Will, but even if you got Maddie along with Paris and Will, that's still only 3 votes. So this is what makes Johnny's position so difficult, is that Ali, Liv, Paris, Will are opposed to each other, and they coming together to vote him to stay in the house. Not a very easy solution here for Johnny. So he's going to try and walk that tightrope today of convincing 2 different sides separately that he is good for their games, and he is not good for both sides of those 2 people that he's talking about. So it's a tricky spot, but he's going to spend the day trying to do it. So he starts off talking with Will, and he's saying, "Look, if I pick you to use the veto, if I pick you to play in the veto, will you use it on me if you win?" And Will is like, "Yeah, I mean, sure, yeah, I would do that, but people would be mad." So, and Johnny's like, "Oh, so no? The answer's no, then?" And Will's like, "I mean, no, I'd use it." Basically, Will at this point, still not even at this point. Screw trying to make 2 sides vote for him. Johnny doesn't have anybody willing to vote for him, so he needs to do a lot of that work first. So what Will starts telling Johnny, like, Ali and Liv were talking to me last night about how they're kind of sketched out by you and how you weren't really talking to them. And Johnny takes this as an opportunity to sort of pin a lot of this fear on that Will has about Dela, and attach Ali and Liv with Dela. So Johnny says, "Look, I'm pretty sure that Ali and Liv have been feeding Dela information for weeks. That's why they came after Erica. That's why they're coming after me now, because Dela knows I've been going after them because I was telling Ali and Liv." So Johnny's trying to plant seeds that, like, look, you need to worry about Dela. You may think that they are just working with you, but they are also working with Ali and Liv, and they're more loyal to Ali and Liv. And then, of course, later on, Johnny is going to try and pretend that Dela is more loyal to Paris and Maddie than they are to Ali and Liv, which, again, this tightrope of convincing both sides that Dela is working with the other side and is more loyal to the other side, which is why they need to keep him. But the reason that the other side wants to keep him also is for silly reasons that he can't explain, because it doesn't make any sense, but maybe he'll try and figure it out. So Liv, he then talks to Liv and has a conversation with Liv about about really what went wrong in their relationship. And Liv is basically saying, I kind of felt strong armed by you and Erica into going after Dela, and I didn't really want to. And Johnny says, I get that. I understand. I wish things didn't go wrong. But I do still think that there's value in keeping me in this game for you. And Liv is like, yeah, I would prefer to see Maddie go, but so still Johnny just kind of planting seeds at this point. Nobody's really willing to keep him or even fight to keep him. So he's making some slow progress. Tracy asks in the chat here, does Will still want to get Kayla out? Yes and no. He is definitely anti-Dela, but he also, needs to work with them right now because they're in power, and he's not sure who else he has. And Paris has been pushing, especially that they need to be working with Derek and Kayla. So Johnny is trying to undo some of Paris's work there with Will. Alex on Twitter asks, what is up with Maddie throwing Paris under the bus all day long yesterday? What do you think of that? I can't tell if it's intentional or if she is that dumb. Maddie throwing Paris under the bus. I assume that Alex is talking about Maddie saying that she trusts Paris a lot. I think that she is not doing this intentionally. We will get to it, but later on in the day, Maddie is going to talk about to the cameras how much she trusts Paris and likes working with her and doesn't even mind if Paris is throwing her under the bus. Alex also wants to know, does she think that she's going to win jury votes with her gameplay? I don't think Maddie's really focusing on jury votes at the moment. She's kind of just focusing on staying alive, but she is certainly going to have a lot of trouble winning any jury votes. William asks, feeling any better, Taran? Unfortunately not, actually. Woke up this morning still feeling pretty awful. My voice is okay this time, but man, not feeling great. Waking up in the morning. Don't know why. All right, let's move on. We've got Johnny. Johnny continues to work on Will. He tells Will that, look, if Allie and Liv don't want me here, that says something, right? That says something that they must be working with Dela, because it doesn't make sense for them to not want me here if they're not working with Dela, because I was their ally. They had me and Erica, and then they decided to cut both of us. And they don't have you, so who do they have? They must have Dela. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And so he's trying to put this into Will's head, and he's doing this good thing, which I think Johnny has been doing for all day long. Johnny's like, look, if I do leave, I'm rooting for you to win, Will. I'm on your side, and that makes people like the resigned, like, oh man, I'm leaving, but I'm really rooting for you. It makes people feel like, well, why do you have to leave then if you're on my side? So he leaves Will with that. And this is when Maddie is talking to the cameras. She's saying she wants the nominations to stay the same. She feels bad for Johnny, but she's not willing to go out on a limb for him. Paris is the only one that she might be willing to go out on a limb for if Paris was in trouble, because she feels very grateful for Paris. That she's in the position that she is. Really, she should be thanking Johnny and Paris, to be fair. But Johnny, I think, has done even more than Paris. But Johnny didn't do enough to take credit for it. So she feels more grateful to Paris. Let's see. Johnny then. This is when Johnny has his big conversation with Paris, and then and Will, and then later with just Paris. Johnny is telling them, look, Dela has a Final Four with Allie and Liv, right? Like, they have a Final Four with Allie and Liv. It doesn't make sense otherwise. They've been working together for a while. They're also playing Maddie and making Maddie feel close. They're trying to reel Maddie in, and by Maddie he means you guys, and while also throwing Maddie out of the bus, of course, saying that Maddie is the one that's falling for it. Maddie is an easy substitute for Paris and Will, where like he can blame Maddie for being dumb enough to fall for Dela when Dela really has a Final Four with Allie and Liv, while secretly making Paris feel like, uh-oh, is that what's happening to me? Well, Maddie's stupid. She would fall for that, but not me. Paris is like, I don't know about that Final Four. And Johnny is saying, no, look, seriously, I'm going to tell you some information, right? Allie, Liv, Dayla, and Erica were all working together. They had an alliance during Erica's HOH weeks. But Erica then started to have some reservations about Allie because of what you told me, Paris. Like, you caused us to have some reservations about Allie, and Allie must have figured that out. And that's why Allie decided to cut Erica and now me. And so, like, we were working together. And look, I'm going to tell you something. And if you reveal this to the house, like, you've lost my jury. This is privileged information, Paris. Before we approached you and Will about the 6, we already had a 4 of Allie, Liv, me, and Erica. And I was the one that pushed to have you guys included into the alliance. Allie didn't want you. Allie felt like you were sketchy. And Paris was like, Allie made it seem like she was the one that wanted to approach us. And Johnny was like, no. That is not how it happened. It's think about what Ryan told you about what he heard Allie say. He didn't say that, but so he's telling Paris all of this information about stuff that she wasn't aware of before, and it is starting to kind of get to her, I think. She's basically saying, if this is all true, you're kind of opening my eyes a little bit here. We may need to keep you in the house. So he's like, yeah, I mean, makes sense to me. So Paris is saying, look, I hope you win the veto. I hope you win this thing, because I feel like this could be good if you stay in the house. And Johnny says, well, look, even if I don't stay in the house, and this is again Johnny being like, if I leave, if I'm gone anyway, I just want you to succeed. He's like, well, like, you should work with Ryan. Ryan's no threat to you. He's giving her good advice for the future that I think helps confirm that his intentions are good. It does seem like this is doing some good with Paris, who really at this point doesn't have a lot of incentive to keep Johnny. It pisses off Dayla, and Ryan is loyal basically only to her, whereas Johnny has a lot of other options and he's much more dangerous. So the fact that he's even getting Paris to consider keeping him in the house, decently impressive, I think. Kelly says he has the puppy dog eyes of a pit bull. Is that Ryan or Johnny? Let's see. Moving forward, we have the veto competition right after Paris is like, oh, Johnny, I hope you win it. Johnny does not win the veto competition, guys. Derek has won the veto competition. We got another HOH who also wins the veto here. And considering what has happened to every other HOH that also won veto, you'd think Derek would be a little bit hesitant to do this. You got Hamza, gone. Erica, gone. Johnny, 1 foot out the door. And Derek is like, oh, I want to be the next one. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Especially immediately following Kayla's HOH. This is bad for Johnny in that he didn't win the veto, but kind of good for Johnny in that it does help further plant a target on Dayla's back in terms of competition prowess. It's a lot easier to pitch, like, guys, I'm the only one capable of fending off their winning streak. Dayla now has a combined 3 competition wins. Johnny has 4. Everybody else has 1 max, 1 or 0. Will, Paris, Maddie have won nothing. Allie won nothing. Liv has won 1 thing, and Ryan has won 2 things, but so it's like, dude, like, you kind of need me. You kind of need me in this house. And that's basically the pitch that Johnny's going to make to Allie and Liv. So Johnny's saying to them, look, if I have a chance to stay, it has to come from you guys. You guys are so influential in this house. You guys hold the power. but Liv is saying, like, I don't think we can get Paris and Maddie because they've got Ryan, like, right? Like, why would they vote to keep you? And again, this comes back to this tightrope that Johnny is walking, where it's like, how does he convince two different sides to both keep him? Because if it's in the other side's best interest to keep him, then it's not in their interest to keep him because they're so opposed. So Johnny has to very carefully walk this line. He says, look, Dayla has Maddie. Derek and Kayla, they have Maddie in their back pocket, right? And Will told me last week, he was warning me that Dayla was trying to pull Maddie, Paris, and Will in so that they could work with them. So you may think that you are working with Dayla, but Dayla is in the center of everything. They are also working with Paris, Will, and Maddie. Why do you think they're not on the block right now? And this definitely starts to worry Allie and Liv. The seeds that Johnny planted last week had grown a bit. Allie had already been worried about Paris, and they say basically, we're kind of worrying about how much stronger Dayla is getting. Not only are they winning a bunch of competitions now, but if they're seriously good with everyone, then maybe we do need Johnny in the house. So after Johnny leaves this conversation, Allie and Liv talk to each other and say, we feel pretty good about that conversation, actually. I actually feel like maybe we should keep Johnny in this house. And they wouldn't even feel bad about going against Dayla now that they know that Dayla has been trying to pull Maddie, Paris, and Will in. The only worry is if they fail, then they're now on the outs with Dayla. If they try to keep Johnny and fail, and it's they're exposed, then it puts them in a bad position. So he's convinced Allie and Liv. Allie and Liv are on board now, definitely to keep Johnny. That's 2 votes, right? So now he has to convince 2 other people to vote to keep him. 2 other people that are not aligned with Allie and Liv, and that want the opposite of Allie and Liv in many circumstances. So this is where the fun comes in. But before we get there, let's take a brief pause to chat with the chat. Michael asks, is that a record for HOH's winning vetoes? This is the fourth person to both win HOH and veto. It's got to be close. It's got to be close to a record in terms of variety of people who have won both HOH and veto. But I don't know off the top of my head. That'd be interesting to look up if somebody wants to tweet at me at some point if you know the answer to that question. What is the record for the number of people who have won both HOH and veto in one season? Question from William: does this suggest that Derek isn't as useless as we thought in terms of winning competitions? It certainly does. I think that I don't know if Derek has been holding back up until this point, or if just like having Erica and Hamza and these other competition beasts out of the house has made it easier for him to step up and start winning. I mean, when Johnny is your biggest competition, but he's only one person, it makes you much more likely to start winning these competitions. So there you go. Derek, not quite as useless as we thought. And honestly, starting to look like could be one of the favorites to win the game right now if Johnny ends up failing. All right, let's move on. So after Johnny convinces Allie and Liv, Will and Paris are having a conversation, and it turns out all this talking with Will that Johnny has been doing, all the conversations that I mentioned earlier, has been working. Will goes to Paris and he says, I've changed my mind. And I said just yesterday on the live feed update, Will was saying to Paris he wants Johnny to go home. A day later, some conversations later, Johnny has flipped him. Will wants Johnny to stay. And Paris is open to it. And when I say open to it, I mean she's not actively discouraging it, but she's not also encouraging it. I think Paris isn't entirely sure what she wants at the moment. So Will says he wants Johnny to stay. Paris is like, I'm not against that. I don't think we have the votes, though. And here are my concerns about it. I think that if we do that and we fail, just like Allie and Liv said, then Dayla will be coming after us. And also, obviously there's no incentive for Allie and Liv to do this. Like Allie and Liv obviously don't want Johnny in this game. So why would they also save Johnny? And we can't do it without Allie and Liv, which again, very funny because Allie and Liv are already on board at this point. And then also, like, it's not like Ryan is coming after us. They don't have the extra incentive that Allie and Liv do, where Paris has Ryan, Allie and Liv don't, which gives Allie and Liv extra incentive to keep Johnny over Ryan, whereas Paris does not have that extra incentive. But Will doesn't really feel like they have Ryan because it's only Paris that has Ryan, so Will doesn't really care about that reason. And if Johnny ends up failing here, it might be because of Paris's relationship with Ryan. Paris being unable to move forward with the plan to keep Johnny because she feels like it's not worth it because she already has Ryan, which is pretty much true. There really isn't much reason for Paris to like really step out on a limb for Johnny. But then also, of course, this massive divide of how does he get these two pairs of people who now both are willing to keep him, and 3 out of the 4 actively want to keep him. How does he get them together to vote together when they don't want to? And if it's exposed that both sides actively want this to happen, then they won't want it to happen anymore. It's very much a catch-22, and Johnny's trying to walk that line. So Johnny joins Will and Paris, and to his credit, he understands the line that he has to walk here. I really thought that he didn't, and that this would just come crashing down as soon as they tried to come together with the plan to potentially keep Johnny. But what Johnny does is he goes to Will and Paris and he says, look, I think that I can get Allie and Liv to keep me because they hate Ryan so much. They might want to take Ryan out over wanting to keep me. That's their reason, right? So I think I can get them on board, but they have to come to you. And Paris is all about that because she obviously doesn't want to go to Allie and Liv so that Allie and Liv can run to Dela and say that Paris approached them about keeping Johnny. So what Johnny's saying is, you guys need to let Allie and Liv approach you, make it seem like their idea, their master plan, make it seem like they're manipulating you into wanting to keep me, even though it's not in your best interests. When secretly it is in your best interest because I'm actually with you and not with them. And that way, if they feel like they've convinced you to keep me against your own best interests, then the 4 of you can vote to keep me and everything will be good. And then we'll move into the next HOH and it'll only be Kayla. Derek can't compete. Maddie will be forced to join us because she's not going to go down on a sinking ship with Dela. This is our way forward in this game. And he makes a pretty decent pitch for being total BS, essentially. Because obviously this is very, very tightrope walking, and there's so many different moving parts that can completely destroy this. But Will is completely on board. Will is totally on board with having this happen. Will wants Johnny in this game. Obviously, Allie and Liv are still on board. It's really Paris that might derail this before it has a chance to derail by itself because of how complicated it is. But there's still a chance. Still a chance. Let's see. Michi asks, what is Maddie's role in all of this? She thinks she's manipulating Paris. Maddie's role right now is nothing. They are keeping it from Maddie. I think, honestly, Maddie is enough on the fence because she also is somebody that really wants Ryan out of the game. I think that there's a small chance that if Johnny loses Paris, he could swap Paris in for Maddie, or he could swap Maddie in for Paris as his 4th vote with Will, Allie, and Liv, and that might actually work. But I'm not sure he knows that he has that opportunity or that possibility. But right now they're keeping Maddie out of it, and she doesn't know anything at the moment. Michael asks, there's a dance with Paris and the other duo to bring up the idea of saving Johnny. It's very, very interesting. I haven't really seen something like this, at least in a long while. It's a very interesting dynamic. I'm really glad that we have a capable player like Johnny in the house to sort of rebound us from this twist. This week was looking like it was going to be very slow and boring, but luckily Johnny has really been pushing these two sides in directions that don't even make sense for them, and it's very interesting stuff, and I'll be very, very intrigued to see where these two duos that want the opposite of each other, but happen to want the same thing because Johnny has tricked them into wanting the same thing. And how do they come together and actually make that happen if it's possible? Tracy says, I'm very surprised these conversations are happening before the veto ceremony. Yes, the veto hasn't even happened, or the ceremony hasn't even happened yet. That's one thing. There's a lot of time to make this happen and a lot of time for this to just crumble under how complicated it is. So honestly, if you're asking me right now, I don't think Johnny can pull this off. I think this is a really, really high level move. And it's way too complicated and the players are too good that I don't think that Johnny can really pull this off, but it will be very interesting to watch him try, in my opinion. Reality Reacts says, I know we love Hot Tub Johnny and we love Humpback Johnny, but Hot Seat Johnny might be my favorite. I gotta say, I agree. Look, my favorite thing to watch on Big Brother has always been good players under high adversity, and obviously not twist adversity. That's that usually isn't very fun, but we've kind of this is kind of like what Johnny would have been going through anyway, given that Derek won the HOH. This might be a little bit too much adversity. I really still don't think Johnny can pull it off, but at the very least, I'm glad that we have the cast that we do, where we have somebody like Johnny that can pull something at least close to this off. So that's nice. Tracy says, Johnny has saved Maddie 2 times as he reminded her of this. He doesn't really remind her of it very often. I don't know why. He really needs to take more credit for that. But I think at this point it's too late. I saved you multiple times a few weeks ago. It's like, what? That was a few weeks ago. What have we done for me? What have you done for me lately? Starlet asks, do you think Paris would ever put up Dela, or will she wait for somebody else to do it? She wants to go to Final 3 with Will and Maddie. I don't think Paris wants to do that at all. No, I don't think she does. I think she would love for somebody else to do it, which is one of the reasons why she might be willing to keep Johnny in this house. But I think she'd prefer for Ryan to be the one to do it, because Ryan is a much more controllable pawn, or controllable weapon to use, at least. The problem is Ryan isn't as effective a weapon. So who knows? Let's see. Let's keep on moving. So like I said, Johnny was getting through to Will and Paris. They said they are willing to keep him if they can get the votes. And it's basically like he's trying to orchestrate this tightrope situation where Ali and Liv and Will and Paris come together. Then moving on to the final conversation of the night, Ali has a conversation with Derek, really just reinforcing what we know now, which is that she really wants to keep Johnny. She's trying to take the opposite approach, because obviously Ali doesn't think that Paris and Will are willing to come on board with the idea of keeping Johnny. So she's feeling like, well, maybe I can get Derek and Kayla on board. She tries to lay some groundwork for potentially keeping Johnny in the house. She says, look, Johnny, he's okay with us working together, and he's okay with working with you guys. We could make a 5 with Johnny. Like that could work. Johnny could be a number for us. But Dela is just not biting at all. They have that sort of thing where they recognize that if a player is in this spot and they somehow manage to survive, that's way too dangerous. It's that catch-22 where it's like, even if what you're saying to me makes sense, I can't accept it, because the fact that you're here and that you might survive, that just says you're way too good at this game. So I need to take you out anyway. And they just are not on board with keeping Johnny. But Ali is like, well, I just like to consider all the options, think everything through before we make our ultimate decision. I think Ali is really thinking about how do we keep Johnny. So I'm very interested to see what happens today on the feeds. I think that we'll see Johnny again walking that tightrope, telling Ali and Liv, I think you need to approach Will and Paris, and this is what you say to them to trick them into wanting to keep me, and then going to Will and Paris and saying, okay, so Ali and Liv are going to come and approach you, and this is how they're going to try and trick you into voting to keep me, but this is how you're going to trick them into making them think they're tricking you into keeping me. And oh boy, that's fun for me. I'm excited to see it. Hopefully it doesn't derail before it happens. Like I said, I don't think it can succeed. I think it's too complicated. It's too difficult to pull off, but it'll be fun to watch the attempt. It will be fun. Let's see. Angel Chick says, who would you like to see go, Ryan or Johnny? I think obviously Johnny brings a lot more to the show than Ryan at this point. I like Ryan's fine. I don't mind Ryan. But he's not doing anything this week, and he didn't do anything last week. He's literally just like a stick that the viewers tried to shove into the cog of the game, and luckily the cog broke through because Johnny is still playing. But like I said, I have nothing against Ryan. I think he's fine. The underdog edit worked on me too. There's a part of me that's rooting for him because the edit is very powerful. Let's see. It's Judy asks, will the Have Not room have a secret power in it? It's possible. Unfortunately, that tomb is going to come into play at some point. Michi says, Dela talked about their strategy at the end of the day. They want to bring Paris and Ali to Final Four because they don't win anything. Yes, that's a good point. They had that conversation where they would like to get Will, Maddie, and Liv out of the house because Paris and Ali are the people they would love to bring down to the end because they can just beat Paris and Ali. Obviously, I think they are underestimating Paris. Not in terms of winning things, because I'm not sure Paris can, although she has been throwing a lot of competitions. But in terms of, I don't think they can successfully pull that off. Like taking Paris's allies out and then bringing Paris and Ali hate each other. There's no way they're going to recognize what Dela is doing if that happens, I think. But they might not be able to stop them if they can't beat them in competitions. So we may see a Dela competition like very much Emmett and Jillian kind of thing where they just bring people down to the end of it that they can beat in comps. And that is their plan. And they're going to try and make that happen. Let's see. Tracy asks, has Lucy, I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know who Lucy is. Justin asks, do you think Derek's convo with Will at the end of the night worked? So yes, Derek has been trying to, and this is another reason why Derek didn't want to keep Johnny, is because he's worried that if Johnny is still in the house, that his bro tactics aren't going to work on Will, and Will won't come on board with him because he really feels like that he's gonna bro attract Will into being bros with him again. It's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Derek, he really feels like he can get Will on board, and he just can't. Like, he had a bro alliance with Will. Will did everything he could to stab them both in the back. And Will has been trying to get them out forever, but Derek still thinks that he can get him on board. He thinks that if he just has a couple beers with him, they can bro down. It's just not working, dude. But it's good for Will. So do I think that Derek's conversation with Will worked? No, I think that I find it difficult to believe that Will will ever really truly work with Derek, at least as long as Kayla is still in the house. I do think if the shot was made and Kayla left and Derek stayed, I do think that Will would pick up Derek. I think that they would start working together at that point. But right now, I don't think so. I don't think so. Let's see. William, is Ryan actually doing anything, or is he just boring? You're asking me, my opinion. He's kind of boring. Not really doing much in the house. He does, like I said, like he was supposed to leave. When somebody is supposed to leave the game, most of the time at least, it means they're done. They're dead in the game. They have it's going to take weeks for him to build up social credit again, so that he can actually start doing anything. So, it's the way things go. Tracy says, I'm too young for the references that she was making. I'm sorry. That's why we need Brent on the podcast sometimes. All right. So I think that is what we have here for the update today, unless you guys have any further questions. But I feel like we've covered the day pretty well. Like I said, I thought it was going to be a boring day. Johnny made it interesting, and hopefully Johnny will make today interesting as well. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. I will have Matt with me. I won't be by myself, and we will talk about the feeds on Big Brother Canada 6. And of course, then later that night, Rob will be live after the episode to recap everything going on there. And then, of course, Tuesday night, we've got the LFC Roundtable podcast. And don't forget the Taran Show with June coming tomorrow night, late tomorrow night. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. You guys are going to love it. So make sure you check it out. So thank you, everyone, for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. I love talking to you guys. It's great. It's fun stuff. This is why I got to do more Twitch, because people do this on Twitch all the time, and it's fun. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. I will see you